Hey crafters, just a reminder, this podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only, and should not be considered advice.
The views and opinions expressed are our own, and do not represent those of any company or business we currently work with, are associated with, or have worked with in the past. Thanks for tuning in to the Futurecraft podcast. Let's get it started.
Hey there, welcome to the Futurecraft Go-to-Market podcast, where we're exploring how AI is changing all things go-to-market, from awareness to loyalty and everything in between. I'm Ken Roden, one of your guides on this exciting new journey.
And I'm Erin Mill, your co-host, and here with Augie, our mascot, who you might hear in the background today. In other episodes.
Augie, we love you.
Augie the Frenchie, for those of you that are listening. And we're here to unpack the future of go-to-market in AI. We'll share some best practices, talk to industry pioneers who are paving the way in AI and go-to-market. So Ken, how are you paving the way?
Yeah. The thing I wanted to share today was something that I'm helping a friend of mine do. They've recently come into a new role, and it's a sales role, and the account information on their territory is a little sparse. I built a workflow that takes whatever they have and creates a deep analysis on the target account, and then actually fills in the information that they need by researching everything from LinkedIn profiles to previous speaking events. And the next step is actually creating a dashboard in Gemini so that you can interact with it and share with VP of sales that might be jumping on the call, or a solution engineer, to give them an overview on where the account is. And it's outside of CRM, which some people might say it doesn't work, but this is really effective for them. They're already using it in their workflows and it's helping them prep their internal teams to go faster. If you have bad data, you have options to get around it, and it saved them hours. They wouldn't even be able to do this before. So I'm really excited about that one.
That's really cool. Folks interested in that should reach out to you on LinkedIn and get more details.
So how are you using AI?
One of the things that I've been really obsessed with is GEO and GEO, like all of the acronyms. Let's talk about getting in LLMs. And one of the things that we've learned is that these LLMs really like the sort of question and answer. So they don't want to have to look that hard for the answer. One of the things I've been trying to do is incorporate more FAQs. In an agentic platform that I've been using, I built a scraper to look at different sites, to do research for me, and then also to create an FAQ on different topics to go along with some of the things I've been writing about. It's pretty slick.
That's really cool. How much time do you think this would have taken you before?
I don't think it would have happened.
I think that's one of the things that I would say I'm really loving about AI right now, because deep research has gotten so good, and even regular research within ChatGPT or Claude, like, you're able to do things that you've only dreamed about and said, oh, I'll do that someday. And it actually allows you to get started on it. And I'm loving this right now.
Yeah, I totally agree. Unleashing creativity and being able to do things that just, we all have this laundry list of things to do. And like, how many things can you actually tick off in a given day? Some of these like projects that are just interesting, but just don't have the time to, they are not the most important thing because you're spending time on those important things. And so they keep falling to the end of the list. And now with automation, we can create a lot more of those types of assets that would have been really challenging to create before.
When people are asking how AI is changing B2B marketing, one of those things is taking things that might be on the bottom of your list and they can take it to the top without you having to do much.
Yeah, without losing the things that are most important. I think that's the key, right?
Yeah.
You're still able to do the things that are most meaningful for your business. And now you can add these additional things because you're a lot more efficient. So that's been a fun one.
Who are we talking to today?
We are talking to the CEO of Leverage. I'm really excited to have Lennard Kooy on the show and can't wait.
Great. Let's pop over. You're right. I can't control it. I'm a fanboy. Let's go right now.
Everyone, and we're back. Today we have Lennard Kooy, a seasoned tech entrepreneur focused on how emerging technologies can transform business operations. As CEO of AI platform Leverage, he helps companies automate complex processes without requiring technical expertise. drawing from his experience building and selling MarTech companies Storytech and ITG. Known for his pragmatic approach to AI adoption, Lennard regularly shares insights on making advanced automation accessible to everyday business teams. He's passionate about strengthening Europe's position in a global AI landscape and frequently writes about the practical realities of implementing AI in an enterprise setting. Lennard, thanks for joining us. We're so happy to have you here.
Yeah, happy to be here.
You built a 500-person company and left it behind to start Leverage from scratch. Can you tell us about that early stage energy and what changed in the world of go-to-market that made this the right time to start over?
Yeah, I think if you look at the tech landscape now and about 5 years ago, when AI came to the scene, everyone knew this is something that we need to do something with. About 18 months ago or 2 years ago, I really felt, okay, I can stick with my old school marketing SaaS, but if I want to do something new, now is the time. Generative AI will probably change a lot of things, especially in the tech space. Cloud, as has been, you need to switch. So it was just looking at that technology and what it could do, it's going to be such a seismic shift. When you have a company like the one that I had that was private equity owned, it's very hard to be agile and hop on that wave. It's way easier to do with a small team that can move very fast. I contemplated, should I do this with the companies I had? It was a portfolio of marketing tech companies. But yeah, that was not going to work. So I thought, let's start from scratch and try to ride that wave with a new group of people.
It's a little bit of timing, luck, appetite to do something. It's a mix of things.
Yeah, it's also the timing ran out, so I could leave. There's a puzzle that needs to fall into place to be able to do it. And my puzzle coincidentally fell into place. So yeah.
When I was learning about you, I found this article where you said most businesses don't really care about AI as much as people working in AI right now, simply because they're not thinking about it. It feels like a powerful insight for us people who are talking about AI, living and breathing AI products every day. Was there a single experience that made you see that as a human block and not a technical block?
I think in general, in tech, we live in this bubble and think AI, why doesn't the entire world shift towards it? But if you look at 99% of businesses, they care about, I sell wood, right? So why would I care about AI? I want to sell more wood. There's a huge gap between, yeah, you need to do AI, but I want to sell more wood. When you're in the bubble and you're just building something, you think everyone understands AI and what it could do. But then it's very refreshing to just go into a more traditional business and then talk about AI. And they just sit across you and listen, I get what you're saying and I get what it could do, but I just have a problem with customer support. Yeah, whether that's AI or we outsource to Bangladesh, how do we make it cheaper? AI is a way to do that. Right? It's a very efficient way to do it. But in the end, AI is not the thing they're looking for. They're looking for a solution to their problem. We have a lot of people that fix machines. I need less people that fix machines. For a lot of people inside of tech, sometimes making that leap or sitting next to those type of personas is very hard to do. And we started building our product more for the tech audience. You have a lot less explaining around AI to do with tech. Then we pivoted it away from tech and more towards the business persona. And then we started having all these conversations that they said, yeah, AI, lovely, but I would just want to solve this problem. Can it do that? Yeah, it could potentially do that. That's why I also make a statement. In tech, we believe that people care about AI. People don't care about AI. They care about a solution to their problem.
So take a little bit more to tactically talking about problems. One of the things that you've built is an AI-powered agent that screens candidates, onboard, and does the sales outreach and saving some companies like 35,000 euros per month. Can you walk us through the before and after, and what did that really look like for both the client in day-to-day terms and also just the technology side?
The screening agent is actually something we built for ourselves. We hire people because we're a startup and not everything can be done with AI. So you still hire people. And if you're a funded startup like us, you have a huge inflow on certain roles, like hundreds of applicants. It used to be quite time consuming to go through all those profiles to find a couple of gems that you're looking for. Now, there are more traditional ways of doing that, but typically like 5 years ago, we would have an internal recruiter that did a lot of that stuff. And we, as a company, had this philosophy, everything that we can automate, we'll automate. So also in this instance, instead of someone going manually through these profiles, there are a couple of steps. When someone applies, there is an AI that does an assessment of the profile in comparison to the job they applied for, and then automatically declines 70% of the applicants, because a lot of it is just hard rules, right? This person isn't based in the time zone that we needed to. It doesn't have the experience, yada, yada, yada. Then there's a portion that goes to the next stage, and they get an email and they say, you've been progressed to the next round. Here is a number to call. They call it, and then they talk to an AI, and the AI does the first interview, which is an interesting experiment, but actually works quite well. They have a 50-minute conversation with AI, and then AI makes an assessment and sends that to us in Slack, but also sends it back to the applicant tracking system. And that sort of gets another 70% out of the 30% that was left. And then there's a human interaction for the first time. Instead of having 50-minute intro calls to see if there's something there, we only get to speak to about 20 of those 400. Wow. So you just replace the role for recruiter, basically an internal recruiter. We do that for a lot of BDR work. We're testing an AI that actually does the calling. We started with a full AI that does an intro, but then we have something that will connect you to a human when you're interested, so that we get the first, let's say, heavy lifting. Because cold calling, nobody wants to do cold calling, right? That's just so there's a lot of these things that you can automate. A lot of our clients also do that with our platform in a variety of ways.
So for our listeners who are thinking, that sounds awesome, I want that too, how would they go about doing it, and what is the first step they might take?
Yeah, I think it really depends on what you're looking to do. I'm not a person that says our platform is the answer to everything. If it's an incidental process, so let's say you do it 4 times a week or maybe 10 times a month, I think the best way is to just build out these projects in Chat or in Claude, and then there. If it is more like the ones that I mentioned that have a lot more higher frequency, then like a platform like ChatGPT is a very inefficient method, because you have to ask it every time to do something. So then you would land with products like ours, where you build out the steps of a particular workflow with AI that has to be repeatable. If you're in the go-to-market or RevOps and you need to do a high-quality lead score, right? And you have all these leads coming in. You want to look for that person on LinkedIn, you want to look for their company, you want to get some other stuff from the internet, and then you want to calculate a lead score based on your criteria. And let's say there's 100 leads coming in every month. Then you want to have something where you can build out all those steps. Your workflow or an agent builder is probably your most efficient way to get to that. You asked, how do I get started? It depends. Make a decision on what kind of process. Is this a incidental, let's say, a not frequent process? Then it's a good idea to build out a project in ChatGPT or Gemini or in Claude and do it there. If it is a highly repeatable process, pick an agent or a workflow builder that you understand. Everyone has a different level of how technical or proficient they are with AI. And I think the best thing to do is to look at a variety of platforms that offer these capabilities, and a big one that matches with the abstraction layer that you like in terms of complexity and how you can use it. There are a lot of flavors here, right? You have very technical platforms like N8N, and then you have something that is a bit more business focused like our platform. You also have things that are really in the Microsoft realm. So if you in that world, you can use something like Power Automate and plug some AI in there. So it depends on who you are.
I'm a user of Leverage. I use it like every day, and that's how I got connected to Lennard. But you said something, this idea of assist before you replace. I think it's really smart. Can you share why that principle is so foundational in how you think about rolling out AI?
Yeah. Humans are quite resistant to change, or at least hesitant. People sometimes do say, we're going to automate this process. And we have now 20 people doing it, and then we flip a switch, and then we have 0 people doing it. But let's say you're the owner of that process. There's a huge risk in that, right? So what if it doesn't work? Or how do I control the quality? Or how do I get comfortable that, let's say, it also gets the edge case, etc. So we often start with companies say, okay, you pick that process that you want to automate. And then the first thing you do is you put that agent next to the person that is actually currently doing. And you have that person check the output, give feedback on it, iterate on it until everyone feels it is doing as good a job as the person doing it, or at least good enough that it works. By doing that, you get buy-in from the people that actually use it. As the owner of that business process, you get insights on what it can and can't do. It's a soft landing for AI rather than a hard replacement. It becomes easier to integrate it into your organization than if you say, we're now going to automate this entire process and we're firing those 20 people. If you start with, we put it as an assistant to those people first to have them work more efficiently. That is a way easier segue to get that.
It's a really good way around building trust with the employee rather than leaning into that fear of replacement. There's a lot of fears that people have around AI.
Yeah.
Thinking about that trust concept, your platform is designed for technical users, simple, very human and intuitive. What UX choices or habits help teams trust and actually use the platform?
A couple of things that are quite interesting. A lot of these automation platforms are moving data from A to B, but it's very hard for a human to understand what is happening. So we have constructs in our platform that are UI components where you can see the output of what the workflow is doing. We also have this concept of resumable workflows. I can show you the output and you can say, that's okay. And then it will resume the rest of the workflow. You can also make that integrated with where people work. We have workflows where the AI does something and then sends a Slack message to a particular channel saying, I have this insight or this is my output. Can you tell me left or right? And then the person in the channel says, go right, and it completes the next steps of the workflow. In that way, people feel that they're collaborating with the AI rather than it's this thing in a corner just does something. And to facilitate that, you need integrations with the platform where people work. We have all these integrations in our platform, but making it visual and having constructs where it interacts with humans are really key.
I think that the visual piece has really changed it for a lot of folks who may not be technical. I'm much more of a visual learner. So these tools for me, being able to see where does it break? Great, I need to fix that part. I think a lot of people get super anxious when they're thinking about automations and diving in, especially in the agent space. What do you say to folks who are fearful of adopting, or how are you helping folks to shift that mindset?
Yeah, I always try to understand where the fear comes from first, because there's no silver bullet in solving that. Sometimes the fear comes from, I tried it at some point and they hallucinate a lot, and you try to mediate that fear or show them how they can mediate it. Sometimes the fear comes from, it might replace what I'm actually doing now. Then you have to try to get them into the mindset. Do you really like that part of your job? What if that is just being done and you have more time for the things that actually matter? So when it comes to, let's say you're in go-to-market and you're a BDR, there are so many manual data entry things that you have to make, create lead lists and then create personalized messaging, etc. Now, if you're a BDR, it would be way cooler to actually think about which new verticals should I actually try to tap into, or how can I change my story, etc. Right? So the strategic or creative things are by nature a lot more interesting for humans to do than just a repeatable data entry. If the fear is it might actually replace me, I always try to get them to a point where you say, yeah, it will replace the things that you don't like so that you have more time for the things that you do. In the end, sometimes you also have to wake up people. Like, this is happening, right? Whether you like it or not. If you don't like it, your competitor or peer will like it, and they will become a lot more efficient and effective in what they do. And in the end, that will do harm to your position. Yes, I understand fear. I'd say the soft approach in mediating the fear sometimes will also be the hard approach. But wake up here, right? This isn't a thing that is just passing by and you just sit on it and then maybe in 3 years' time it's flew over and then you're still doing manual data entry. That's not going to happen. People also have to be realistic.
One of the things I do when I'm training people on how to use leverage specifically is they'll ask if something's possible. And I'll say, yes, it is. But if we break it down, you can get more clarity and understand the steps to actually how we built it, which will help you, your team build trust, which will help with adoption. I know that you said that adoption is more about a behavior than the actual technology. What role do you think leaders play in ensuring AI tools actually get used not just stuck in this pilot phase that a lot of companies seem to be stuck in right now?
The variety of ways, but what I see working a lot is that you bring it in a way that it is seen as constructive rather than frightening. You lead by example by doing a lot of with AI yourself, but in the end, if you really want to get it into your organization and into workflows, what I see working well is, hey, you put it in as an assistant first, but at some point when you're comfortable as a leader, hey, this is actually doing better than my humans, you start enforcing its use. So what I see happening is that they bring it in as an assistant, and then they gather a lot of feedback on how it's used. They iterate on the agent, and at some point they think, hey, this is actually working really well. And then they flip the switch. So rather than AI being the assistant, they say, hey, you put it into the AI to do the sanity check before it can go to the next phase. So let's say you're doing invoice handling. First, you're checking what the AI is doing. But later is you have to put it in the AI first to do all the screening before you can send it to the accounting system. You just can't send it directly to the accounting system anymore. That street is closed, right? You have to go through the AI first. It's not an option anymore. And then people adapt a lot quicker because people are a lot of times stuck in their ways, right? And then they just get used to this AI as an assistant, and that's the new way. So then they flip it and they say AI is the primary source, and then we go to the next step.
I think that's really interesting. So maybe next up, we could do what we call the gladiator round, otherwise known as Show Me the Tool. Would love, Len, for you to show us something that our listeners and folks that might be watching online could use in a practical way, if you don't mind taking the challenge.
Okay. So a platform, a lot of SaaS constructs that I won't bore you with. The meat is building workflows or agents. Now, instead of people having to figure out how they put all these boxes on the canvas and draw the lines between them, etc., our starting points often a bit different. So you describe what you want to build. Aaron, what would you like to automate?
I am excited about that BDR idea of doing some of the cold outreach. So for folks that are listening, Len is putting in a basic prompt of, I want to automate the process of doing outreach and I want to have AI generate.
Yeah. So let's say you want to build a lead list and you have an idea of the vertical that you want to target. Then you would say, what if I can just say to that AI, here's the vertical, now find me companies that are actually relevant in that vertical and their contact details. So that's basically what is in there. So let's say you put this in our system. What the AI will try to figure out is what you want to try to do here. Sometimes it will ask a couple of questions back. Sometimes it will just start building something because it feels it has all the information it needs. And basically it just starts building the automation for you. Now, take a while, put all these notes onto the canvas on what things it should do. And then hopefully in the end, you get something that works. The entire idea is that we get you up and running a lot quicker than you having to try to figure everything out. This isn't the perfect workflow, but it is a very good idea of what it could look like. And we put all the blocks out. I want to do a vertical. I want to do a geographic location. I think it makes a lot of sense. Maybe you want to do some company size. Then it will start generating a company list. It will do some web search based on a company list. It will extract information for those companies, process that into lead data, and then we'll return the list. The entire idea here is, how can I get to a working workflow really quickly? And then you can start talking to that workflow, right? Instead of, again, you can also just draw lines and boxes on the canvas, right? But the idea is it's based on how you would like to work. So either you just type it in and it does it save to Google Sheets, and you pick the spreadsheet that you want to connect it to by talking to it, or you can put all these complicated blocks on it yourself if you can't figure it out. And that is how we try to make it a lot simpler to build these type of automations than someone having to understand all these concepts. Hey, when do I need a scrape web, and when do I need a prompt node, and which integrations do they have, etc. A lot of our clients just chat with this box and then get to solve.
Yeah, this is really cool. So I will say, as I mentioned, I've used the platform. I use it daily. The idea behind it that I think is really powerful is breaking down the steps for the user so they can see how each of the nodes impacts the output. Also, if something's not connected to the right Google Drive, you can see why it breaks. It's a really intuitive way, especially now that I've done it a few times. And also, you guys have really good customer support. So I feel very much supported in that. I'm a big fan.
Now, was the Gladiator test?
I think it's success. As I mentioned, I really like visually being able to see it break out. I use N8N quite a bit. And the thing that I like is just that the connection piece. So in my head, then it starts to make sense. And I think that's what I really like about seeing that. So I'm going to give, you survived. You survived. I think you made it.
Good. So sticking to the leverage, could you share 3 quick wins new users should focus on in building something so that they can really get an understanding of the platform and how to use it versus what I have maybe made the mistake of is overshooting it and trying to build something too complicated and having to like reverse engineer it.
I always say to start with something where you can actually see the output first. If you start with a process that starts with an integration and ends with an integration, it's very hard to understand what is this or workflow actually outputting because you then have to, for example, go into Google Sheet and look at it there. I always say start with something that you can see the output of in our platform. Then you get a feel of the quality of the workflow that you're building. And at some point replace the last step with where you actually want to send it. So that is one. I also think that people should start with something that is at most 5 or 6 building blocks, just to get a handle of, hey, this is what it could do. This is its limitations. Then I get some understanding of what is going on. Like our Copilot sometimes generates these complex workflows with 20 building blocks. And then, yeah, okay, that is cool, but very hard also if it breaks, and that sometimes happens, to debug it, but also let's say it functionally works. In the end, these are all business rules. They're blocks with business rules, right? So even as a human, if it functionally works, to understand what goes on in that workflow, less information is better. And a lot of these AIs are you just give it business rules, right? So do this and then do this, figure out this. So yeah, keep it compact initially, make sure you can see the output and do something that you understand. And what I mean by that is, let's say if you're a marketeer, then if you do something with content and content generation, or let's say creating optimized pages, that's something you actually understand. So that you get a better grasp on what AI can do and its limitations because you're a subject matter expert. If I now build a workflow that tries to invent a medicine, I have zero clue whether it's done a good job, right? No clue. So those 3 things. Make sure you can see the output, start compact, and make sure you start with something that you actually understand.
Yeah, I think that's really good advice for folks. One of the things, we're talking about this stuff all day, and Len, you're on the early stage of it. Where do you see the most potential for agentic AI and go-to-market?
In go-to-market, one is BDR replacement, right? If you look at these YC cohorts and batches, they're a very good representation of the first things that a new technology can actually solve. If you analyze these batches, a lot of them, when it came to go-to-market, were focused on BDR replacements or assistance or content generation or post creation. So those are the most evident ones. Now you're seeing a layer deeper where you see agents helping in procurement processes like RFI, RFPs, etc., or helping AEs prep meetings a lot better, right? You automatically get an entire summary of the client that you're talking to, their pain points and all that sort of thing because it was AI research. So it always starts with a very simple, most apparent one, and then it grows in complexity. And I think on RevOps and go-to-market, it has a huge potential to do a lot of the heavy lifting when it comes to data gathering and data entry. I always say a CRM, like it's a legacy system to an extent. The best version of a CRM is a CRM that isn't there. That's very hard for people to digest, but who likes being in a CRM? You like being there to see charts of the results, but you don't like being there, putting all the information and dragging the card there and there. You don't like doing that. So what AI can do a lot there is just take that away. I think for go-to-market, there is huge upsides in data gathering, data entry, prepping of meetings, prepping of prospects, identifying verticals, doing research about, let's say, which go-to-market work. One of the groups of people that I see interact with AI almost the most in comparison to other groups, they're devs and they're go-to-market. Those are, let's say, the primary people that currently pick up AI. The rest will follow, but it's interesting to see that they're quite on the forefront often.
I think what's really interesting about all of this is there's all this conversation happening around what's possible with go-to-market, and there's a ton possible. You just highlighted a lot of repeatable tasks that people can automate, save them a lot of time, and allow them to do more human-centric things. There's also a lot of noise out there that's like AI can save your whole life and you can make 3x your pipeline and you close 10x your deals. And so it's a little overwhelming for people receiving that message. A lot of those AI promises just fall flat.
Yeah.
What's any guardrail or guidance you would give to a go-to-market leader to ensure that they don't fall into some sort of trap, or maybe even come in with their own expectations and be disappointed?
I think the most simple one I can give is, if you don't understand what that AI is doing, then don't buy it. I see these guys that share these workflows with 300 blocks on them. I just look at it, whoa, that's inefficient. A, and B is, who understands what's going on here? And then it's just, I put something in and I hope I get something out. If you're in go-to-market, you're probably subject matter expert, then I would at least like to understand what is going on here on a high level. So if someone comes to you with this entire silver bullet that will 3x your pipeline and you just give me money, and if you don't understand what that thing is actually doing, I would stay clear of it. I don't know how that company's going, but it was 11x, one of the first AI BDRs. They had this entire black box. Yeah, just give us money and we'll do all your BDR work. Nobody actually knew how it worked. So yeah, you get leads. And then it ended up not generating so many leads, or generated a lot of leads, but a lot of very poor leads. AI is almost human. You can see the business rules, you can understand it, because if you're in RevOps or go-to-market, you know how you do it yourself. You also know how an AI should probably do it in a more scalable way, but a lot of the core principles are the same. So again, make sure you understand it.
A good one.
Talking about understanding, a lot of folks are talking about MCP right now. And how does it change how people build agents or workflows, or what advantages do you see for go-to-market teams?
The biggest advantage is that's just way simpler. The old school SaaS world was made of APIs talking to each other, right? So you have this particular thing that you can do in a particular app and that has a particular API endpoint. It is very granular in how you can connect something. And for a lot of go-to-market people, an API call, I don't know, how does that work? Which one should I use? Do I use a post or a put, if they even get that? And what MCP does, it abstracts all of that away, because it's often just one link. And the company that enabled that MCP server or client saying, okay, here are all our actions, all those API endpoints that you have. We put it in a box and you can just tell it what you want to do in natural language. And then we'll figure out what you actually meant. That is, let's say, for you, and I'm technical, but a lot of people, that's way more efficient than going to an API documentation, figure out what's this, what's that. So what MCP unlocks is, let's say, integrations between systems that were possible in the pre-MCP age, but so hard to do that nobody did.
Yeah, and what you said earlier was really insightful about who's adopting AI with these go-to-market teams. I think it actually gives more power to the go-to-market teams. You know, you don't have the friction of being like, oh, I got to get an engineer to do it for me.
I think that's in general the power of AI, to be honest, that it enables a lot of people to do things that they couldn't do before. It enables people to now build a website without any technical knowledge. It enables people to do contract drafting while they're not a lawyer. It enables people to do, let's say, automated process that they couldn't could automate. I think AI is itself the biggest enabler in tech that I've ever seen. As also for this is another example, like integrate. Just give it an MCP link, authenticate their MCP. In Cloud, we have, for example, ourselves, like we have everything there. And if I want to do something in HubSpot, I try just to never go into HubSpot again. And well, you can say, hey, well, what is the status of that deal? Did we move anything in the pipeline today? Can you update this? It's just way simpler to do it in such a way than having to go into that system, into the ticket, into the field.
Oh, I think that you're probably speaking the language of a lot of our listeners. I think a lot of them want to go into HubSpot or Salesforce. Give me the goods. I want to deal with it.
Yeah.
You guys at Leverage target a lot of mid-market companies. What really gives those teams an edge versus a big enterprise team or other types of companies?
The reason why we target more mid-market is mainly if you go really upstream to enterprise, you see a couple of things happening. There's a lot of focus from those companies, from big consultancy firms like Accenture, but also from OpenAI themselves. So it's quite competitive. Then the process of getting things to work there is lengthy, right? There's procurement and all that sort of thing. So getting to value is very hard. And also the people in those organizations are less willing to try things, are less agile. If you move a bit more mid-market, then a lot of those things fall away. There's less competition, less friction in the buying process, and people are often a bit more open to just try out things. And this is more true on the completely SMB side, but on the completely small businesses side, our proposition doesn't have enough ROI or not as much because we automate repetitive processes. And if you're a guy with one bakery, then the amount of back office process a lot less than if you have 100 people. Our ROI increases when the organization gets bigger, but when it gets too big, there's too much friction. That's why we focus on mid-market.
Yeah, until you can build the robot to start rolling the bread.
Yeah, it's called Monumental. It's really cool. And actually, a lot of Dutch construction companies are now using it. So there's literally a robot driving and then does all the walls. And it's all AI because it has to understand when it has to turn a corner and all that sort of thing. So if it can do bricklaying, then at some point it can also roll bread, right? That is the...
Wow. Coming for everything. There's so much happening right now, and there's probably more that's going to happen in the coming months and years. Could you share a belief you have now about AI and go-to-market that you think most leaders will embrace maybe in 12 months, but they either can't see it right now or they're just not ready to believe it?
We believe that we live in a society that in 4 or 5 years' time, something like that, 90% of what people professionally do will be strategy, creativity, or human interaction. That's it. And when you translate that to go to market, that means that let's say, how you operate will be much more thinking about, okay, what is my persona? What is product market fit? How do I tell a story? Human interaction, sitting with your client, understanding them, getting feedback, translating that feedback into your AI to do something. I envision that a lot of marketing and sales will be, if you have more like an enterprise play, almost your entire day will be talking to people, no matter your seniority. So now it is, if you're very senior, you just talk to people. But if you're very junior, you sit behind your computer and you do effectively data entry in a lot of cases. And what I see happening is that, let's say in a couple of years' times, even the juniors, the only thing they do is talk to people. There's AI is doing the rest, right? So there's no real role for a human there anymore. So it's talking to people or coming up with creative things that AI can't do. If you think about it, AI is a very smart parrot, right? That's what it is. And it can be so smart that it can almost seem that it is not even a parrot, but can actually just talk on itself. But in its core, it's a smart parrot because it's trained on data and it can replicate that data. So that means for real creativity and real strategy, let's say humans are probably more efficient. So in go-to-market, I would really focus on people that are good with humans, that are creative, that can think outside of the box, than people that are really efficient in Excel or PowerPoint. That was really a skill maybe 2 or 3 years ago, but that won't be a valuable skill going forward.
I think the critical thinking piece is going to be so desired, and like you couple that with the creativity, and that's what people are going to hire for. If you could think about maybe one piece of advice you'd give every go-to-market leader who's adopting AI now, what would it be?
The biggest advice, and this will sound very cliche, is but probably you're going too slow, move faster. And that is, it sounds like, yeah, but he's in AI. That's true. If I look at a lot of SaaS companies, I think you're going to have a really tough time staying competitive in the coming 2 to 3 years. And then you talk to those people and say, yeah, we want to do stuff with AI, but we have also our, let's say, yeah, we have our other initiatives, a lot of people to onboard, we're rebranding, and I need to redo my sales collateral. And yeah, we'll get to it next quarter. And I think that is backward thinking, right? It is, okay, but why don't you hop on the train now, go faster, and then those other problems are solvable partially also with AI, right? So my biggest advice will be remove the, how do you call it?
The blinders.
Move fast.
Yeah, I think SaaS is ripe for disruption now. It's going to be really interesting.
One of the things I'm finding when I'm talking to leaders is they know they should be doing something or want it, but they don't have the urgency to actually make the jump. And we're starting to hear rumors of leaders actually having their roles terminated because they didn't evolve and start using AI. They weren't considered visionary enough to lead their team through the next transformation. I think we could see more of that. I don't want to scare people, but it's something to be aware of.
Yeah, but that is a far away problem. And these are problems that are now on my to-do list. But that's also like the blinders, right? So yeah, there's a fire 3 kilometers away, but my house is fine, right? So I'm going to bake a cake, right? So I'm going to bake a cake. And I'll look out the window in a couple of days and see where it is. But then when the fire is at your neighbor's house, then it's too late. What are you going to do? Yeah, then you don't have fire extinguishers. You didn't call the fire station. I sometimes do it, right? And I think everyone does it. You have these clients, they want stuff from you. Your manager asks you to do something, and then AI seems far away. Yeah, it might be an exponential threat, but what is it now? So I'm just going to create that automation HubSpot that was on my to-do list for a while. That's a very dangerous. 5 years ago, it was actually a pretty decent strategy. Just tick off all the things that you had to do and then progress. But now with AI, there's a new world out there. And if you don't understand it, I think that's a very dangerous thing to do.
Yeah,
It's like iceberg ahead, and they're just not moving away.
We'll see where we get there.
Hey, this has been a great conversation, but we have to wrap up, unfortunately. Before we go, we like to do quick hits, just your practical tips and tools for our listeners in a lightning round. Are you open to it?
Sure.
What's one underrated AI tool or feature you're loving right now that's not leveraged?
Projects in Claude.
What's your go-to prompt, framework, or workflow that saves you time every single week?
Projects in Claude that have MCP.
How do you keep up with everything happening in AI without drowning?
Follow the right people.
Anyone you'd recommend?
And that's why I said a lot of people make the mistakes of just following a lot of people, and then some of them are interesting and some of them are not. If you're in go-to-market, follow 3 or 4 people that actually write valuable stuff around AI in go-to-market.
No.
Don't follow, I don't know, Sam Altman. You could, but that's also just distracting. So make sure it's relevant for you.
What's one smart AI use case you've seen recently that has made you think more people should be doing this?
Okay, I think this was a pretty cool one. I mentioned it somewhere, and let's go to market rate. So you have to cut this because otherwise it's not lighting. But I saw this guy for every meeting he has in a certain stage, he has AI automatically do deep research on that particular client based on his HubSpot information and sends him a very concise, this is the person you're talking to. These are 3 talking points that he mentioned in his LinkedIn social, etc., that you can use as a hook. And these are 4 things that are relatable to our product that you can use. I think that I see a lot of these tools and they give you lengthy reports and nobody uses. There's a lot of noise. So I saw what he was doing and he just opened up every conversation. He didn't prep anything. He just walked into the call, looked at it, and then he started, hey, Ken, I see you actually have a podcast. Can you tell me a bit about it? And that sort of is, he has this instant connection. And yeah, I thought that was really cool.
That is really cool. Lennard, this has been incredible. Thank you so much. We've learned a ton. We are going to wrap up and be back right after this.
All right, and we're back. So, Ken, what was your biggest takeaway?
There were so many takeaways. I learned so much talking to someone who's in it every day from a different perspective. The team at Leverage talks to customers all the time. I've talked to them quite a bit around using the platform. They are learning how people are actually using the product. Really stuck out for me, though, was the idea of how to think about adoption for employees. If you're struggling or worried about how to get your employees to adopt AI and get out of this pilot phase, having an employee sit down or a team sit down and map out a workflow about how they work with AI and have it be human AI, the AI human sandwich, if you will, I think is a really good idea. And then when he talked about Leverage and he showed you can map out the nodes or think of them as steps so that someone can see where there's actual critical points that need human attention and more clarity to remove that black box. I just think that creates so much trust and opportunity to really help accelerate companies and teams using AI in a more productive way. So that was incredible. What about you? What did you learn?
That's actually a really great lead into my takeaway, which is like sense of urgency. It's got to start now. If you're not on the boat, jobs are going to change and they're changing fast. The way that Len talked about getting that sense of urgency, whether you're an IC or a leader, it's really up to all of us to embrace this change. Whether or not we like it, it's here.
Yeah, it is here. Sit on this. Don't punt it to next quarter. Start now and start thinking about how to transform your pilots into something more tangible and think about getting your teams to adopt it. And Aaron and I, hit us up on LinkedIn. We love talking about this stuff. We have some experience doing it. So we're happy to share with you a little bit of what we learned.
Yeah, love it.
Yeah.
So thanks to Len for coming on the show. Really interesting conversation. And thanks to everybody who's listening or watching. If you liked what you heard today, please share or give us a like or comment on LinkedIn. We also have full episodes of video on YouTube, which you may be watching now. Thanks again for listening.
And until next time, let's keep crafting the future of go-to-market together.
Thank you.